they can be spaced apart. So it's important that you find some fascination in what you do. But as a broad case, enjoy your math, because it's the math which everything quantitatively. The first thing which I would like to tell you, don't think math is math. Math is a language to help you understand things correctly. If I say the stage is large, or it's one, if I say the stage is 6 meters, it's making it more quantified. So think of every part of math. So start in enjoying the math. You yourself can start creating problems and tell your math teacher that if this I do by this way, I get a better solution. If this I try this way, I get a better solution. So and whatever you learn in physics, you try to understand how it goes hand in hand with math. So this way you can nurture your curiosities. Do a lot of experiments yourself. Everything you don't have to fall back on the college or school labs. You can do your own experiments, try out things, like even a simple thing like a paper plane. If you throw it, what happens? If I change the number of folds on one side and change it to the other, in which direction it changes, the curiosity. Once your curiosity, you get into the theory later. So the life ahead of you is fantastic. If it was possible for me, I would have resetted my life. I would love to be 15 right now and sit there and listen. You know, and everything. When we were in school, I remember all of us, as when I was in 3rd or 4th standard, all of us wanted to become astronauts. Because Apollo 8 went to space. Soon after that, Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong, the moon. All of us wanted to become astronauts. So that was the type of excitement we thought. So here also, there is so much of creativity going on in all fields of life. You just talk of technology, it is there. Certain things could not be thought of earlier, but you talk of technology, it is there. And much of the technology has come by practical experiment, up later by theory. So I think all of you are good. All of you work. People like Thomas Alva Edison and all just developed. But before I close, why I refer to Thomas Alva Edison is, don't get disheartened, any of you. Remember, genius is 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. And that's hard work is something, whatever field you are, excel in that. Make a career out of whatever field you want to work in. And exciting opportunities are there now. Medicine, medical engineering, and by production industry. So it's all keep working and all those things. So I wish all of you a great time ahead. And I can tell you, looking at you there, I would just love to be below 15, to be there, to get reborn again and be below 15, to see the great works which are coming up. So your exciting decades ahead are great, with plenty of opportunities, plenty of them, I can assure you. And I can add that Father Wortley had helped us so many decades back. And that's hard math. The other day I was explaining that to photograph theory. And can you believe it? They were totally taken aback that so many decades back, how could this be thought of or possible? So the point is, the world is yours. Take it forward. All of you guys are much better than we are, or we have. But our job is to give you some directions, share experiences, for the reason, as I said, not to end up wasting time by making the mistakes.
Hello everyone, respected father, teachers, staff, and esteemed guests. Captain Cooper, I can call Dr. Roy and Mr. Shukla. Wonderful opportunity. I think our problem is that, previous years old in front of these teenagers. Now I feel young. And it's like 100 years of experience that spoke currently. So very, very difficult act to follow. But maybe I can just kind of add on what these guys have already spoken about. And we're talking about education, right? Education is a continuous process. It doesn't end at wherever we stop at graduation, some at post-grad. Continuous learning process. And a platform that is set, which we to put it into a practical purpose and keep learning. Like, how do you adapt? How do you learn from what you've already done, reflect upon it, and then improve on it? That's what education is. And in the current world, I think the technology has advanced so far that it makes things around. I still remember our trips to. It used to be to the Gangaram's book bureau, Sapna Book House. That's where our knowledge was. There was no internet at that point of time. We just had to scour through the books to get our. But now, just Google it and you get everything about the solar system. Those days, just to do a project on solar system, you have to go through hundreds of books, find out what a plant looks like, and that's what it is. So we adapt. We learn. Okay. So, and it's not that, whatever you learn, you stop at there. I don't think it's the end of all. Companies were doing really well, but they failed after some point of time. I think you guys know Kodak. When we were young, we had this camera. You were all smartphone people. Kodak used a reel under it, only 36 photos, develop it. Now Kodak is almost bankrupt. They didn't innovate. Smartphone came, they went out of business. It happened with the Nokia phones. The CEO famously said, I don't know what we did wrong, but we still went bankrupt. The reason is they were not learning, they were not adapting, they were not learning from others' experience about what needs to be done. So as the technology need to evolve, you need to learn. Another thing, you might have seen in a lot of times in the matches or other things, the helicopter hovering around on the top. There used to be a cameraman who used to capture the video from the top. Then the technology changed, drone came in, and two people lost the job, the pilot and the photographer, right? So you need to learn, continuously learn. And how do you get that learning? It comes out of curiosity, that's what Mr. mentioned here. How do you generate that curiosity? I would say one word, innovate. Learn to innovate. Start thinking that, hey, I want to build something, the house. When you start thinking about it, that's when you start, ask questions, you'll go looking for the answers. Once you start looking for the answers, you'll reflect upon it, start building, and that's how you get ideas, build upon it. There was a mention of Thomas Alva Edison here as well. He tried, I think, 700 odd times or 800 odd times, and finally he succeeded. I think there was a saying that, I didn't fail for those 700 odd times. That's how you learn. So fail first, fail fast, and you'll learn new things. You would know how not to do things and how to do things. And that's when a truck driver who's gone through the country, he knows what routes to use and what to avoid. That's experience. That's how. Only once you travel, only once you get. Not be just bookish knowledge that write an exam, you're done. That does not stop there. It's a continuous process. Apply it into the practical world, you'll and then put it back into practice. So I don't think I gave something new. This is something that I heard from these guys. Try to summarize it, give my spin to it. All the best, and it's wonderful panel and a lot of questions from these people as well. I see myself down the line after like 20 years, how I see myself. This is what I'm seeing my future. So I think good days ahead. Thank you.
I just add a point. The helicopter pilot will not lose the job. He'll become the drone controller if he's smart enough. The cameraman will not lose the job because he'll be smart enough to figure out which camera, the fisheye lens or telephoto lens, what is it. So you see, adapting to change with the technology. Upskilling. So it perfectly fits into what I was also saying.
I have a question though, which none of you asked. What about Industry 4.0 and 3.0 and social, Captain Dr. please?
See, 4 is still going on. In Germany, the term of 4.0 was called, and that included big data, remote materials have come into picture. And the biggest change which is taking place beyond 4.0 is customization for the individual. Like tomorrow, the society would like to keep themselves customized needs rather than make. So my house should be different from somebody else's. My vehicle should be different from somebody. I think my shoes, for example, like we still have cocaine. So customization is the key word. So Industry 5.0 is taking all the good points of 4.0 and adding a technology which can help in customizing without an economic penalty to the whole thing. That's why electric homes, I talked of features for the older people with knee and back problems, adjustable. And as you grow older, it becomes more adjustable. Creativity has come. Industry 5.0 term has been coined just in 2020. So the world is ahead of you to really shape Industry 5.0 and Society 5.0 and take it the way you want it. And I think we'll benefit from it because we'll get into the geriatric mode at that point of time. So if you come out of the way, yeah, thank you.
I want one of you to ponder for a while and I would entertain more and more questions from all. Questions, please. That's the gist of all what we discussed right now. Any question, you need not have to worry what that question is. Any question is entertained.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. I would like to Mr. Subir Shukla. You mentioned that you had an. What would be the experience of a student? Universities, if they were made to experience the same studies in a different location, what would be their experience?
In fact, students out for so the understanding is there that it can be done differently. But I think what happened is that we are tied to the idea that university is one place. It may not be like that. In very ancient, not ancient, in the beginnings of modern age, in Renaissance time, 16th century, in Europe, that was your education. You went to all the writers, and that is how you learn. There is no reason why now digitally you cannot do that. There is no reason why on the shop floor you cannot have your classes. There is no reason engineering course you cannot learn. I think the idea has come. Already I see some break, a gap here. They do not start, they travel all over after graduation, between graduation and post-graduation they do it. And there are also now movements of unschooling movements now, where people do not learn in formal settings at all. They learn like a community. But for that, the students have to know what they really value. But that is only one way of counting. You can also see what kind of interesting experiences you have had, what kind of interesting people you have met, what kind of new things you have learned. If you only go for money, then you will become like everyone else. Lastly, a lot of research to show that toppers do not make a difference to the world. Because what toppers have learned is how to crack an exam. They crack life. That's a different thing altogether. So yes, I think it's a very interesting thought. It should definitely be tried out, and in some ways, it is being done. It will be a different experience and can be done. Thank you.
And do you think that all these aspects actually add up to having a successful career?
Yeah, so some of the most successful people have not even been to the university. And you already know some of the famous dropouts, though I don't want to say that going to the universities are, but but do not confuse successful career necessarily. There are many elements. Captain Cooper is an example that he didn't go to a university, but he's heading, I think, the biggest shipping corporation in the world. So it's not that straightforward. And I think finding out what you really like. I would say successful, you should ask yourself 2-3 things. That is done by a lot of people, everybody does it. But I think the important thing to ask is what is the difference I want to make? And when you come to the time when you have to really study, decide on a career, I asked a question which helped, which is, if I had only 3 years left to live, and why am I not doing it? Everybody assumes you're around forever. You're not around forever. Anything can happen anytime. Do what you really want to do. And that is where you will be successful. You are not going to be successful if you do what somebody else wants you to do. Somebody puts you in a particular path, you go along to please someone else, you're not going to be very successful. Do what you like.
Thank you, sir. Sir, and I have a question for Dr. Kalal Roy. Sir, if there was one piece of advice you could give to your younger self, what would that be, sir?
That's a nice question.
No, as I told you, my life has been a little more regimented and conformist. So when I speak, so while I also think there's a need for having knowledge of the experience which has gone before you created an idea. That knowledge comes from university. But then has anyone else seen it? Have it faced any problem? Why can't we understand that? Then go ahead with the idea. So I would shape it that way, that let me have that knowledge also. That is university. Now that university could formal, informal, travelogues, through multiple modes of learning, it's still an university education. Any sort of learning. So that is, so I feel a requirement for you to be a useful member in society to start with. And being bigger. This is the way I look at it. So if I was to set my career backwards, I feel I had thought of too many earlier education. I would have focused a little more maybe in my class 12 on maths, not for getting into a job, but for understanding something. Maybe in my engineering, I would subjects better. But while doing engineering, I spent a lot of time reading up Bernard Shaw and so many other things. I'm not saying it will not come in handy, but I reshaped my career a little more with a focus enjoy, not just to not to enjoy. So I don't know what other answer.